Give our audience a little bit of a 101 on establishing VINWiki and its reason for being. And I know for those who are not aware, there's a lot of social vehicle history reporting on the platform that really crowdsources the story of a car, right? It is the story of a car.
That's the idea. So I had a background in the car industry, both through the exotic car rental business that I started in college at Georgia Tech, but also as the director of sales at Lamborghini Atlanta for about 6 years. And I was always really fascinated about how the way that you crafted, the way that you told the story of a car could really influence the perception of a buyer and the true value that the car had. I had developed the habit of kind of putting all the VINs of all the cars that I'd ever owned on my own website so that people would Google the VINs and find me and tell me where they'd gone long after I sold them. And I thought that was a pretty fascinating way to see a different angle in the life of a car beyond what we're really able to understand either through Carfax or Experian in the traditional ways that you might understand the history of a car, but to even be able to see past your own involvement with it. I also was really fascinated by the rarity of certain cars, in particular Lamborghini Murciélagos. And so being able to start to document the insane rarity, even beyond what the factory thought of how hard it was to find these cars, led me to some ideas that ultimately became the VINWiki app, which is a way that anybody can build the history of a car by posting information to its VIN or by its license plate as a crowdsourced vehicle history reporting platform. And like any tech entrepreneur, you think you're going to put it out there in the world and a butterfly is going to flap its wings in Kansas and that first domino becomes everybody having it on their phone. But it doesn't work like that. It takes forever and a lot of money to reach that kind of critical mass. And so about a year in, we were out of money and needed to go back to our day jobs. And so sort of as a last ditch Hail Mary effort, we started to release daily content on YouTube of me or a friend telling our best car stories. And over time, that just sort of developed its own audience, very much became the cart driving the horse and us just trying to figure out, exactly how to grow the app through social media marketing.
You had no desire to become a YouTuber, did you?
No, that was not the goal. That was not even the thought. To be quite honest, I had a lot of friends at the time through selling cars at the dealership that had a presence on automotive YouTube. I've known Doug DeMuro since college, and Tavarish and TJ Hunt and Rob Dom and all these guys that were kind of the 10 to 15 year veterans of the automotive YouTube space. And I had asked them all, I said, hey, I'm producing this content. Why don't I just give it to you as an extra piece of content or an extra show that you could put on YouTube? And then you'll get the views. You can make the money there. I just want the benefit of people downloading the app. And they all said no. They all said, people subscribe to a social media content creator on purpose. They don't want some random person showing up telling them a story about a car that they may or may not care about each day. And so there was no real thought that this was going to become like a real thing. And the fact that it blows my mind to this day. And fortunately, it's not the Ed Bolian channel. I'm only maybe 10% or so of the content and most of the ad reads. It really is designed to highlight, encapsulate, and immortalize the greatest car stories from anybody who can show up, sit in the chair, and maybe have a glass of whiskey and tell a good story.
And now almost 2.1 million subscribers for an effort that you once said it didn't seem that interesting or pertinent. As you just said, you'd have to constantly release videos and content to fuel this thing. And now, I mean, with the number of videos that you have and the following that you have, the idea that you were one thing and now you're another has come to fruition because you're a YouTuber.
I guess I am, and that comes with just the most humbling and incredible opportunities I ever could have imagined. I mean, whenever you go pro in your hobby, it can, sometimes it can sort of ruin it. I mean, that was my first automotive business was an exotic car rental company that I got with stated income loans that you could get back in 2006 as a 20-year-old college student. And to be honest, while I learned so much about the car space, about entrepreneurism, about the cars themselves, I had a real struggle because the whole business was about the incremental value and the cost of using these cars. And when I became so hyper conscious of how much it costs to take these things 20, 30, 40 miles, it was like, man, I don't know that I can really afford to drive this car to dinner, even though there's a fleet of them sitting here not being used, because I knew how much the consumables cost, how much the depreciation was, how much the cost of money was, how much the insurance was, what the risks were, how bad downtime would be if something bad happened. And so that sort of soured me, not to the love of the cars, but more significantly to, just like, man, I don't think I can afford to enjoy these cars that I love, even though I found my hack way in to being around them all the time. And it wasn't really until spending some time at the dealership, finally making some slightly better money, and being able to, find some really bad examples and kind of find my way into my brand of exotic car ownership, which is by the worst one that'll actually get somewhere, make it a little bit better, live in that margin between unacceptable and probably okay, never chasing perfection. And that's what allows me to have the most fun.
Amazing. Some of the popular videos on the channel, can a regular person drive a real Formula One car? 6.4 million views.
Yeah.
Setting an unbeatable cannonball record in a fake cop car, 4 million views. The top 10 valet fails that occur. I mean, this is just regular stuff that people sitting around would go, God, I wonder what it's like to drive a Formula One car. It's how much time do you spend on content creation and the next great idea?
Well, the cool thing is at this point, the ideas kind of approach me, and that's been a whole lot of fun. I don't pursue a lot of content, and I'm not like, Stradman or some of these guys that are constantly buying cars only for the sake of content. Mine only works if the cars generally go up in value. And so it's a very different mindset. But, the fortunate thing is that the way that the content works, people show up at the house, they shoot in the garage, they'll come out, shoot 5, 10 different stories that we'll space out over, the next 6 months at times. And so that means that it's pretty easy for me to bank a lot of content. And so, Demiro was here and shot 8 videos in a couple hours, and those will all be great. They'll run through the end of the year. And that can really help me, because at any moment I've usually got 100 to 150 pieces of content that are the stories that are shot, but that we haven't released yet.